Okay, finally out at the range with the Glock 19X. Okay, the 19X is technically a Gen 5, but it is not labeled as Gen 5, just G19X. And the reason is there are some dissimilarities between it and the other Gen 5s that have been released so far. So here's a quick look, just in the box. Here's how it comes. Pretty much like we're used to seeing all of our Glocks, you know, from Gen 4 on. One key difference is, just to show you the magazines, you get 2 magazines with the extended base plate, and that is a +2 capacity. So we have our one 17-round magazine, and then we have 2 magazines that will hold 19 rounds each. And then of course you have your back additional back straps, same as we've had with Gen 4 and now Gen 5, and the pistol itself. So let me get this box out of the way. Take a look at the gun and talk about it. Okay, so what really sets the 19X apart? Well, it's been talked about a lot already on the interwebs, so I don't want to just rehash everything that we've already all discussed, but I do have to point out certain things, even though they may be obvious. That is, it is a Glock 19 in length of the slide, length of the barrel, all of those things. But it is essentially a Glock 17 in height. So the frame size is that of a Glock 17, at least in terms of the height. But the dust cover length, beaver tail to dust cover, is Glock 19 size as well. So it really is sort of a crossover, and I think Glock is actually even calling it a crossover. That's a popular term these days, right? Especially in the automotive industry. Well, here's our crossover handgun. I was one of the first people to join the, hey, they got it backwards, mantra when this pistol was first introduced. And to some degree, I still feel that way. However, I do recognize the value in a gun configured this way, especially after I've talked to some of my folks, especially after talking to some of my friends who are have military and law enforcement backgrounds. And I specifically asked them, so look, you know, as a military gun or as a duty gun in general, talk to me about the configuration of this pistol and why it's good, or maybe why it's not so good. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so first and foremost, it is Gen 5-ish. It is, for all intents and purposes, a Gen 5. But again, it is not being called a Gen 5. It's Generation X. Oh no. Oh no. But let me give you a quick look at what's different between this pistol and the Generation 5. And the only Gen 5 I have is the Glock 17 Gen 5. So the frames will be the same size. Actually, this is a good way to show you that the dust covers are shorter. So it's a Glock 17 height, but a Glock 19 length, even in the frame. So one key difference is on the Gen 5 here in the frame, we have this cutout, this notch, and the idea here is this helps you get a thumb in there to strip a magazine that might not want to fall free. I know some people that hate that, you know, especially on the Glock 19. Recent conversation I just had with my FFL, and he said he hates it on the 19 because of how it feels gripping it. And I get that. Okay, Glock 17 Gen 5 doesn't have anything here in our little cargo space, just like always. The X has this lanyard strap. So we've got a little lanyard ring here, but it is removable. You could pop that out. It's being held in by a little polymer nipple right there that you could probably just use your punch and pop that guy right out of there. But there's one difference. Now, another key difference is the regular Gen 5 has that new flared magwell. The X does not. So you can see the difference right there. That and, you know, the finishes, and that's about it. Okay, so the big hue and cry against this pistol was they got it wrong. What we want is a Glock 19 height with a Glock 17 length, and they got it exactly backwards. I get it, but what we have to understand is that this gun was not designed for civilian concealed carry. It just was not. There will be people who will carry it that way, and that's fine if you want to carry it that way. There are people who probably carry a Glock 17 concealed. This gun was not designed with that use in mind. Okay? This was designed to be worn outside the waistband in a duty fashion, right? Fully exposed and accessible duty pistol for someone in the military or law enforcement. So the advantage that we have, of course, is a full-size grip. So if you've got bigger hands than mine, and a lot of folks do, you've got somewhere to put that big meat. You have, along with your full-size grip, of course, you have a full-size magazine, and in this case, an extended magazine. It says 17 on there, but it will hold 2 more, so it'll hold 19. You've got all that. And why, then, do you have a shorter slide? Well, the reason that makes the best sense to me is that the shorter the slide, the faster you can clear your holster. That makes sense, right? That's why a lot of times in the competition world, we see people trying to continuously cheat their holsters to be lower and lower and lower, and to the point where some sports have rules about how low they can be in terms of the cut on the holster. Well, so people who have to draw a handgun rapidly understand that the longer the gun is in the holster, the slower the draw. So you've got, you know, I don't know if it's a full inch, but I think it is right here between the 17 and the 19. That's quite a bit of extra gun to have to clear leather, or Kydex more likely. And so that's a very good practical reason why this configuration exists. So let's get past the justifying and rationalizing and just talk about the specifications of the gun. So right off the bat, I'm going to talk about the coloring and the finish on this gun. So it sort of has a kind of a 3-tone look, because the polymer is a different color than the metal finish. The finished metal slide is almost always the case, right, with polymer guns. And then, of course, we have our black accents with the sights, the trigger, and the controls. So we have this sort of 3-tone thing going on, especially when we expose the chamber part of the barrel here. And that looks pretty nice. But I want to tell you, this finish on the slide is a PVD. They're calling it NPVD. I do not know what the N stands for. Pardon my ignorance. But I don't know how this is going to come across on video. You know, different lighting. Maybe you want to have it outside. It may look completely different than it looks right now at the workbench. All has to do with the white balance on my camera, and there's a lot of factors involved there. But I will tell you that this thing is beautiful. I love the color of this finish. It's like a gold bronze combination, and it's just, to my eye, very attractive. I like it, I like it, I like it. And I like the color of the polymer as well. Glock calls this Coyote. I think that's a very good name for it, because even before I looked it up, that's what I was referring to it as. So their variation of flat dark earth for this pistol is called Coyote, and depending on how long they make this and how many they sell, this could become an interesting collector's item, and I may eventually want to get one just for that reason. I just love the color of this slide. It really is like a gold, kind of a gold bronze color. Very nice. Very, very nice. Talked about the Gen 5-ish aspects of it. It is, internally, it is completely Gen 5. So you've got your Gen 5 trigger group changes. You've got your Gen 5 ambidextrous slide, stop, and release control. Firing pin safety block is Gen 5 and all of the other internals as well. Okay, you could look up the specs on your own, but then you might say to me, well, we did, and your video is how we're doing that. So let me give you the specs. The length of the gun is 7.44 inches. The height, 5.47, and I suspect that would be with a flush magazine. The width is 1.3 inches. Same. Barrel is 4.02. Weight of the gun empty with an empty magazine, and again, I presume, flush mount base plate, 24.83 ounces. Just an opinion, grip index I have not measured yet, but I presume it should be identical to the Gen 5 Glock 17. I will verify that, and if I don't tell you any different, then it is the same. It is a Glock, so it's got a Glock trigger pull, and it feels just like the Gen 5 Glock 17. It is a little bit improved, but it still feels like a Glock trigger. A little lighter, a little crisper. Before I left the house this morning to come to the range, temperature was like 3. It's this many. And that was some hours ago because I've shot a whole IDPA match already today, but it is still quite frigid out here. So I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to start out at 7 yards with this Glock 19X out at the range. This will be the very first shots with this gun. It's not really a first 100 video because that implies that there would be a follow-up, and this gun is on loan to me from awesome gentleman named Joey, and I appreciate that a lot. So I'm going to give myself an opportunity to not look too bad while I shiver out here in the cold. Am I going left? So we'll talk about the configuration of this gun. Not like everybody hasn't already, but you got the short slide on the tall frame. And I think it works. This gun has night sights. I believe that is the only configuration with the night sights. And at $750, I would hope so. All right, so that was 15 rounds, and I've got like 17 and 18 rounds or 16 and 18 rounds in my other magazines. Basically, in the 3 magazines that were provided with the gun, I put a whole box of 50. And you can do that. You have these high capacity magazines and live in a state that doesn't limit that freedom. I did put a moss colored Talon grip on this pistol. And that does actually make it nicer for me. I prefer the rubberized Talon grip. So, what do I think of this gun? Well, it's a Glock. Walks like a Glock, talks like a Glock. I think it's well equipped magazine-wise. I like the colors. And it would definitely have appeal to me if I was a Glock collector. You know, somebody who just really wants to have all the different colors. You know, I've seen the grays. I've seen the gray Glocks and some of the other color Glocks and flat dark earth frames and stuff. And I've been perfectly happy to pass them by. But if you're one of those people that has to have those, then I'm guessing you're going to have this, because I really do like this color. And out here in this wintertime directional sunlight, it looks really nice. It's a nice color. Like I say, very bronze, very goldy, bronzy type of color on this, on the slide. And it looks really good. In every other way, it is a Glock. It is a full-sized Glock 17 frame and a short 19 slide. What more is there to say, really? Talked about the differences between Gen 5 and this gun. So it's sort of a Gen 4.5. It does have the new Glock Marksman barrel, so whatever that means, if that's helping. At 7 yards, which is not an much of an overstretched distance by any means, it's certainly making a nice group. So it's letting me shoot it well, which is appreciated. All right, so there's 2 magazines worth, and most of those are going through the same hole. So I think it means I need to probably back up a little bit, make it a little bit more of a challenge. So let's do that. Okay, I've backed up to 10 yards. Make it a little bit more of a challenge. I'm sure that'll open my group up a little bit, because at 10 yards, the front sight starts to pretty well obscure that entire orange dot. So it makes it hard to be as precise with my hold as it is from closer. I forget how many are loaded in this. This is one of the extension magazines. It will hold 19, although I think I got 17 in one and 18 in the other. That last round, even with an Uplula mag loader, was awful stubborn to try and go in. So the 19 round magazine is maybe not. Okay, before my hands freeze, I do like Glock's night sights. They're very no-nonsense, good 3-dot combat sights. Of course, they are steel. They have tritium inserts. Gun feels good. I do like the full-size frame. And at these distances, this short barrel doesn't mean anything. And even the short sight radius. So yeah, if I wanted a gun I could get out of my duty holster faster and save that inch on length, but still have full capacity and then some, this would be an absolute contender. That last round always wants to beam me in the forehead. All right, so it doesn't look like I messed up my group too much at 10 yards. And again, that is just a testament to the reliability of the Glock, both in terms of function and its accuracy and its aim point and all that. So if you shoot Glocks, you know they like a 6 o'clock hold, so you just park it in that position and try and have some trigger control. Excellent gun. I like it. I don't know if I personally am willing to spend 750 bucks or whatever is going to be close to that once they settle into the stock at retailers, upwards of 700 bucks on it, you know, if I didn't feel like I needed it for a collection. But I never say never. So I can't promise I won't wind up with one of these at some point. Maybe if I see them on sale at my local gun store or something. But I don't feel like I have to have one. I don't feel that it's anything major different from the Glock Gen 5, 17 or 19. It's basically the hybrid between the two. I like the color a lot. That's, you know, I'm really fixated on the aesthetics of the pistol, because after all, that's kind of what's different about it, is that color, and I do like the color a lot. So that's nice. What do you think about the moss-colored Talon grip? I think it kind of goes pretty well. It makes it sort of a three-tone flat dark earth. You got the bronze slide, the very more beige Coyote colored, and that's what they call it, polymer grip, and then you've got the moss-colored rubberized Talon on there. You sort of have that three different tones of flat dark earth. If you actually were trying to camouflage the gun, if that was the real reason for the colors, I think the more tones of that color you have, the better from a camouflage perspective. And then of course you have the black controls to accent and offset that, and the black barrel and so forth. So very attractive gun. I mean, you know I just called a Glock attractive. That's really going to bother some people, but hey, I think a gun like every tool can be very attractive. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If you're a gun person, you appreciate guns, then I'm sure there are guns you find to be very attractive. I think this is one. I think it looks great. And if I were to buy this gun, it would be 50% at least of the reason would be because I like the way it looks. So nice job, Glock, on the aesthetics of this pistol. So we do have the extra capacity of the 19-round magazines. You get 2 of those, and then you get a standard 17-round magazine. So yeah, you can fit an entire box of 50 and still have room for a few more into the 3 magazines that come with the gun. So that's a nice thing. The sights are great. I love Glock's Combat 3-dot sight picture. These are the night sights with tritium. They are made of steel, so they're nice and strong and durable. This is an NPVD finish that makes this gold color, this bronze color on the slide. So it's going to take a little time probably in the field before we get an idea on how durable that finish is. I did take the chance to put it in a holster. I was very careful because it's not my gun. I didn't want to make a mark on it. But I was very careful to put it into a brand new holster, and it is a Blade Tech holster, and it has left no marks on it at all. So hopefully this finish will be durable and last a really long time over the years for those of you who do pick this thing up. Okay, let's talk about magazines for a moment. There's probably nobody else in the firearms world that is as magazine compatibility friendly as Glock. However, these are not 100% compatible with Gen 5. In fact, they're not compatible with Gen 5. So let's take a quick look. Here's the extended faceplate 17-round 9mm magazine, one of the 2 that come with this pistol. Here is the flush mount 3rd magazine that comes with this pistol, and of course, perfect fit, right? Now, question is, what's compatible with this gun? Well, here is a 9mm 17-round magazine from a Glock 17 or 34 or whatever, right? Works perfect, right? Functions, fits. Gen 5 from my Glock 17 Gen 5 9mm 17-round magazine. Nope. Ruh-roh. It does not fit. It will not seat. And the reason is right here. That little turned up nose at the bottom of the base plate, or at the front of the base plate, is being interfered with by this flared out section of polymer that is not present on the Gen 5 17. So just to show you that, here's the Gen 5 17. And remember, it has this big thumb notch here for us to be able to strip out a magazine. Well, magazine is curled up right here at the front. Now, the magazine from the 19X will function perfectly in the Glock 17 Gen 5. So the Glock 17 Gen 5 will take previous magazines, Gen 4 style, Gen 3 style magazines. However, the Glock 19 will not accept a Gen 5 magazine, 17 rounder. So just know that if you are already in possession of a Glock 17 Gen 5 and you think you're going to be able to use those mags in your 19X, au contraire. One of the things I think is pure novelty, maybe a little fanboy Glock feature, is the Lanyard Ring at the bottom. It is removable, as I said, but I don't really see any point in it. Can't even think of any duty application for it these days. It basically does come down to the same length as the magazine base plate, though, so it's not really adding anything to the pistol that way. So that at least is good. I know a lot of lanyard rings, especially in the old days, were very obtrusive, hanging down below. So at least it's not adding any height to the pistol, and it does keep it nice and flat and flush at the bottom. So they didn't mess it up that way. So I guess it's okay from that perspective. With this Talon grip on it now, it's very comfortable, just like I like them. So I'm going to shoot it some more. I'm shooting 6-hour ammo, by the way. This is 6-hour Elite Performance, 124 grain ball. And this is really good range ammo. And I find it's an excellent way to break in pretty much every new gun. I know I've tested the ambidextrous slide stop on a lot of pistols and on the Gen 5 Glock as well, to see if it is as kind to left-handed people as they advertise when they put them there, and they don't always function. So let's try this one on the 19X. Yep, works beautifully, just like it did on the Gen 5. So kudos to Glock for providing an ambidextrous control that really is ambidextrously functional as well, not just there for looks. So the question is, at the end of the day, and it is just about the end of the day here, should you buy the Glock 19X? Well, start off by asking, are you a Glock fanboy? Because if you're a Glock fanboy, the answer probably is yes, and you probably already have it, or you have it on order, or you're already camped out in front of the local gun store to get one. And that's cool. Can't blame you for that. It is a nice quality Glock pistol, as Glock pistols tend to be, and this one is very distinctive. So we talked about why it is configured the way it is, so I'm not going to continue to beat that very dead horse. It is what it is. If you don't like it, don't buy it. But my 2 cents for this is, if you're a Glock fan or a Glock collector, you feel like you just got to have it, buy one. I would wait till the price comes down a little bit. I think $750 is a whole lot for this gun. I don't think it gives you that much extra for the price, other than a cool color and a unique configuration. You know, maybe that's enough, I don't know. For me, I'd have to see it come down to, you know, somewhere in the 650 range before I would even probably start rubbing my chin over whether I needed to buy it. But it is in every way a Glock. It walks like a Glock and quacks like a Glock and all that kind of stuff. It shoots great, it's reliable. A couple hundred rounds through it today and it didn't have any hiccups whatsoever. So I'm giving this gun a big thumbs up because it's performing perfectly for what it is and how it's configured, and I like it. I'm crazy about the color, personally. I really do like this color. I think they hit a home run with this NPVD finish and this bronze. They call it Coyote, and it's a good name for it, especially for the polymer part. But it's a beautiful, beautiful bronzish, and sometimes in certain light, almost gold looking slide. But not tacky at all. It's got a really good quality finish. I like it. And if it were priced a little more attractively, I'd probably be interested in owning one. At $750, I'm gonna hold off. I'm gonna stand pat at $750 and not have one. But if the price comes down a little bit, I could be interested. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check out the description below. Expand that, look for discount codes on lots of cool stuff, including Talon gun grips. Also an FYI, for those interested, Just an Opinion channel is on Patreon. That link is the orange ball up at the top of the channel. That's also below in the description of this video. And if you got a few bucks, give it to Veterans Canine Solutions. That information's also below. Thanks, guys.